Okay, sorry to spoil your chats. So my name's Dominic Campbell. Thanks for having me. I've literally just got off a plane from Melbourne, but Britain just before that. It's good to be here. So what I'm going to talk about is the work that we do both in the UK and in Australia as well more recently around some projects relating to this social design theme, but particularly social design and tech for social solutions. So that's the title, which is a little bit douchebaggy, but go with me. So this is the floor plan of Futuregov, essentially. These are the three skills that we think work quite nicely together at the moment. I'm ex-government and was in it for 6 years. Did big, horrible IT projects that broke my brain and were pretty depressing and very expensive and unnecessary. And then for the last 6 years I've run Futuregov, which is a team of 40 people who about a third in each of those circles. And we think that they're really important skill sets to bring together. When I was in government I had big change and I had big tech. I didn't even know what design was. And since then I've found agile tech and human change and human-centered design and think that they're a pretty powerful combination together. Everybody has their own design approach. It doesn't really matter. It normally involves Ds and diamonds and the like. There are a range of ways you can do these things, but fundamentally they're the same across the piece. What we try and articulate here is the fact that design can't really act on its own, and it needs to act as a team, where you've got people body checking the politics of an organisation, who tend to be our change people, who are ex-government and understand where the skeletons are buried and where the politics is and how to step around it, which then liberates the designers and the technologists to actually find a human-centered solution. And then technology is awesome at rewiring public services and at scale. So I'm going to talk about three different angles from three different projects compared to the amazing in-depth one a minute ago. I'm going to go extremely fast through 4 of them. So the first one is, how do we join up frontline public services, was a challenge that we set ourselves. There was a series of really tragic child protection issues in Britain, one after the other, which I'm sure are replicated in many countries around the world, but in particular baby Peter, who had something like 60 interventions from 10 agencies over the 18 months that he was alive. Before his parents killed him, and for some reason we in this modern age can find it easier to find what our friends are eating for breakfast on Facebook on the other side of the world than to know that there is a policeman working with the same client as you and join up the data. And that's because we create these false structures, we create these false rules around information governance and sharing. And so we sort of set off on a mission 4 years ago to try and start from scratch and say, surely this is possible. And we're implementing this in Central Coast at the moment as well, which is part of the reason I'm here. And then, so yeah, essentially the key was all these professionals who thought they knew everything. Like, not necessarily from or at all from sort of a vindictive or malicious point of view, but just from the point of view that I'm a professional, I know what I'm doing my job, I know what it says in my job description. I don't get rewarded for working in partnership with people, and when I do work in partnership, it's because it helps me more than a collective team. So we really wanted to visualize the team around the individual, because not everybody knows everybody who's working with everybody. And so we spent actually, so our projects are 6 months generally in the first instance. They never run longer than 6 months. We work in teams of 6. For some reason 6 is our magic number, along with S's and D's are everything to do with what we do. And out of that 6 months we spent 4 months work shadowing, workshopping, getting diaries written, understanding life from 40 different perspectives, from the client to every single public sector frontline worker. So 4 months of 6. We only spent 8 weeks even going anywhere near technology. Because, to be honest, that's the easy bit, especially when you've spent time truly understanding the problem. And so what people said to us wasn't we need a massive case management sharing data, Big Brother thing. They said, I would really just like to know who else works with my client and what their phone number and email address is, so I can ask them the right question at the right time in the right way to get the right answer when I need it. I've got too much of my own information, I don't need anybody else's. So we built them a supercharged phone directory with a really simple global search. Kind of funny because they used to like black screens with white flicking cursors, and then they saw Patchwork and were like, can't be safe. can't be safe, too beautiful. It's hardly beautiful, but it's nice and simple and straightforward and elegant. And essentially it allows, by everybody saying, I'm connected to Lorraine, you get to see this list of everybody who says they're working with them. You get to email all the team in one simple go. It's mainstreamed into their working practice, and it actually solves the problem, which wouldn't have necessarily happened if you'd gone into the, I don't know, Victoria or New South Wales state approach, which might be, for instance, to try and raise $10 million to do a 5-year failed project. Which may or may not have happened on multiple occasions. Whereas the cost of this initial pilot, you're talking like 100 grand. And so they get interesting stats about the growth of the network. And now we're moving to client login as well, where the client themselves on their phone will be able to have a new contact book which they log into that says these are the 11 practitioners that say they're working with you. Because if you've got 11 practitioners working with you, you can't remember their names, you don't remember what they do, and you certainly don't remember their phone number. So you get to do that. Or you can just nudge them, which is like doing a drop call, where you essentially say, call me. So you don't actually have to spend the money doing it yourself. So
Can we ask a couple of questions about that?
Sure.
So that was just the pilot is around a neighbourhood?
It's defined by geography, and it's a secure, trusted network by every public service body, which is broadly defined. So in one place in Britain, it's defined by 100 organisations. Right. So from the Saturday morning football coach to the GP to the social worker. It's because it has such limited information on it. It's all about the network and talking to each other.
So how does someone get into Patchwork, a client?
This way. This is the client.
Is it a special? Like, is it an additional piece of?
It's like Facebook Messenger app, essentially, versus Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does it record the clients or only all the professionals?
The clients, yeah. This is a client. Lorraine is a client. That's her profile page.
So it links all of those.
Yeah.
How did you do with the privacy issue?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll write you a thesis on that. I'll run through the rest of it. That was about 3 years, 10 months of the last 4 years.
Okay.
So one of the projects we're doing is how do you bring together government and community stuff a bit more effectively. So we've got this thing where it's kind of nice just to have an elegant web form to be able to apply for welfare or to apply for whatever. That's number one, right? It'd be kind of nice if, I mean, even just so many things that we come into touch points with government, it would be nice to have that as a starting point. So we kind of solved that in adult social care in Britain. But then we were like, well, that's kind of boring. Like, it's kind of easy to make pretty forms on the internet. So how about when you fill in that form, it actually gives you a personalised list of resources that draws from all of the stuff that is on Google in your local area, ratings and reviews, other things as well. So instead of everything, the answer always being big expensive government services doing things to you, while you're waiting for your application to be assessed, you can go and check out these other things, save government money, better connections. And this came again from hanging out for 4 months with practitioners who apparently they had all the information they needed on this directory. Well, as it turned out, that on the right is the cupboard where they get all the leaflets to find out about local community resources, and this whiz-bang 2,000 line directory, A to Z of services, never gets used. And in fact, actually, in an area of 1 million people, gets lower traffic than our blog, and we're kind of a niche digital local government agency, so you can kind of see where it's bollocks. And then hanging out with users as well and trying to understand what it's like to try and go through social care, doing a lot of very customer-centred journey mapping to see where the problems are. 80% of practitioners spending their time in front of case management systems, putting data in rather than with their clients. That's kind of terrifying. These people are highly skilled and should be out with people, and they're spending a day a week with people and 4 days a week in front of a computer. It's ludicrous. So we just built something, again, very simple for people to be able to apply for support. It looked, interestingly, on the design front, in aesthetic design, it looked kind of Silicon Valley whiz-bang, and then we kind of walked our way backwards from that as people kind of made us have a reality check. But it was interesting to try and push the boundaries on the outer edges and then bring it back, but also make sure that you protect elegance as you do it as well. I'm just going to rush forward. And then there's one around connecting communities. So if you've got connecting public services, bridging the government and the community, how can the government be a platform to support the community to do more for itself? And we're implementing this in three 3 councils in Victoria at the moment, and it covers about 10% of England right now. But essentially, this was about how do we tackle Meals on Wheels? How do we move beyond crap food thrown at your doorstep to something which is actually social and actually enables people to come together around a social object, which is food. And instead of saying, do you want to micro-volunteer because you live in Sydney? People go, I don't know what you're talking about. Instead you go, do you like food? Do you like eating food? Do you like cooking food? Might like showing off to your neighbours a little bit? Yeah, cool, right, we'll do a match.com, we'll get you together, we'll match you up and you can cook for one another. Just an extra plate of dinner, weave it into your day. It's not like a big, 6 months of training on a Saturday morning so that you can volunteer for something. It's just, are you capable of having an extra portion of dinner? Yes, I am. Can I walk it three doors down the street? Yes, great, I'm socially good. I feel good about myself. And again, that came from a 2-street pilot with a spreadsheet and a mobile phone, so very lo-fi prototyping to start with, to understand whether people would do this stuff. Trying to think elegantly about engaging people, leaving little Alice in Wonderland notes on cakes at people's doors to invite them to join. Which is very trusting of them to not think we were trying to poison them. And now we use the technology as a bridge between the 2 worlds of people who are digitally savvy and people who are less digitally savvy, but there's the tech at the middle. So those who can access it do, those who can't use the telephone, and as it turns out, 80-odd-year-olds in Britain love text messaging, and they will just text message the crap out of us even when they haven't got dinner coming, just to say hello, which is very nice.
I had a look at Kettle on the weekend, and I was wondering how much of it is fully automated, in the sense that there's say the police check in the background. Is it all fully automated, the tech side of it?
It's as automated as it's capable of being, given how clunky the criminal records.
So that's the only.
On our side, it's fully automated.
Yeah.
And then there's breakpoints where government systems and other things come in. But I mean, essentially where it is right now is that we delegate the technology to the council.
Right.
The council puts it in their call centre. They then act as the broker. As it turns out, cooks like phoning to have a chat as well, because they want to be reassured there'll be somebody there and that it won't be awkward and all that stuff you'd imagine. But then the council runs the what is called DBS check in Britain, and then they go from there. So it's kind of highly automated.
How do you find building both sides of that market in terms of supply and demand? How have you found that?
Yeah, so cooks easy, generally. People, we've got 5,000 cooks registered in Britain without even trying. It's got a life of its own. It's like one of those stories, right? It's been in every national newspaper, every supermarket magazine, and we've never even sent out
people really
one press release.
For their neighbours.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And if you go for passion-based rather than sort of needy or worthy-based, it just takes off. On the diners side, that's why we embed it in councils and in state government as well, is because social workers can just give them a flyer and get them registered. Things like day centres act on behalf of older people as well, so they'll act as their proxy on the system and order a dinner and matchmake for them. So we use existing networks essentially. And so now we've got almost touching 5,000 now actually, and over 1,000 meals, slightly out of date these stats. And as I say, we're coming to Victoria in September to start with. And the very last thing, very quickly, because this is partly why we're here, is we're running this 2-day event on Friday. Denise, wave, Denise. Hello. Really awkward talking about you while you're sat there. This is Denise. And Denise got MS when she was in her early 20s and decided, again, this is so weird talking on your behalf, decided that crap assistive equipment shouldn't have to be that way. How do we actually lobby for change in this market, particularly in the NHS where it's all about big buying, cheap, horrible crap? How do we actually create a place where people like Denise, who are quite design oriented and just happen to be disabled rather than that defines them, have to receive this stuff, and how can they find a place to complain with like-minded people? So we created Enabled by Design, where people can say what they love, what they hate, what they spotted, what ideas they've got for better products. And that was all about trying to lobby for change in universal design. But instead, over the last 4 years or 5 years, there's been the rise of personal design. So instead of us trying to lobby the NHS to never change, we instead decided to focus on the other end of the telescope, which is all about how do you make personal products. If you can do Nike ID and design your own trainers, why can you not design your own crutches? If you can crowdsource all sorts of trivial things, why can you not get together and crowdsource the next wheelchair design between a community of people who use wheelchairs? new materials like Subaru, which is like magic plasticine that sets hard and does crazy cool things, so you can mould products to your own hands and to your own body. 3D printing, obviously, massive opportunities there. So then we set up a Neighbourhood Design-a-thon, done one in London, one in Washington, and we're doing one in Sydney Friday and Saturday. And that's all about a 2-day event to make personal products. Our muse is our friend Paul, a guy with no arms and no legs, but so we bring users together with designers to actually show them what needed and to design for people rather than for sort of abstract products. He's kind of terrifying using a kettle, as you can see. So we got a load of people together, and after 24 hours we'd hacked a kettle specific to Paul. Still terrifyingly dangerous at that point. Wouldn't recommend plugging it in, but nevertheless, it is attractive enough that I would buy that. And it kind of works both ways. It's personalised, but it's kind of gone to universal because it's kind of an attractive product as well. It's very interesting. And then we did a bit of 3D printing as well. People printed cactus finger sets so that they could actually, people with find it hard holding knives and forks could just poke at their food instead, and those were printed overnight. And all of this stuff it's not just about digital hacking in a day, it's actually physical products can be hacked in a day now, and you can really move forward from there. And we even hacked or printed out the winner's cup of those. Thank you very much.